Good morning and welcome to Hometown Highlights. And we have with us today, not a resident, but we have with us an educator from the Fort Meade Middle Senior High School, and his name is Mr. Elvin Hanna. So, he is doing great things, and I had the opportunity to meet him on a couple of weeks ago at our event that we had for teens, and he, I think, is a motivator, and I was just so impressed that I invited him to share with us on Hometown Highlights. And so I want to introduce to you Mr. Hanna, and I want him to start off just giving us a little background about himself.
Okay. Okay, now that's a very good question. A background about myself. Well, I have a lot of different layers to myself, honestly. The first one being, you probably can tell by my accent, I'm not from America. I was actually born and raised in the Bahamas. And basically, I had a different upbringing. It was a little rough, but not too rough to where I couldn't get what I needed. But I had to always fight for what I want, and I know the difference between between something that has no talent and you just want to stay away from something that is basically a diamond in the rough. And I know what it is to actually see that potential and make it into something new. So my background itself basically personifies what that finding a diamond in the rough is. So I can go into a little bit of how I actually got here in the United States. So I was a part of band, obviously, because I'm the band director at Fort Meade Middle Senior High School. Go Miners! And when I was growing up, and I joined band, I was a part of this community band called the Bahamas All-Star Marching Band, and we got a lot of chances to travel all over the Bahamas as well as United States. So one year we went to Bethune-Cookman Homecoming, and we marched during their parade. And Mr. Wells, who is the band director at BCU, he came over to the Bahamas the next year to recruit some of our students. And obviously I was one of those students that was lucky enough to be recruited. I got a scholarship, came to Bethune-Cookman University, Hail Wildcats.
And so you say Hell Wildcats. Well, I attended Bethune-Cookman also, and that was a great legacy behind the whole school. And people who go there really feel the heart of the school. And so I just wondered why you were such a great person. You went to Bethune-Cookman.
Well, you know, that's it. Enter to learn, depart to serve, right?
That's right, depart to serve. And so, what a wonderful experience. And so, let me stop interrupting your story and let you continue. But, I could not let Bethune-Cookman go by.
Of course, hail Wildcats. So, my time at Bethune-Cookman University basically took me from a life of an islander to a life of somebody living in the United States. And yes, it's very different. So I had to go through a lot of different changes. There was a lot of cultural shocks that I had to go through, but I really felt that God really placed me in the United States for a reason. I didn't know why yet, but at that time I knew that I was where I was supposed to be. And I knew as long as I was doing something with music, and I was pursuing my passion, and I know that, hey, this is where I have to be, and I have to make sure that anybody that comes in contact with me, they see my passion, they see my drive, and hopefully want to pursue the things that they want to do as well.
So we understood how you got to Bethune-Cookman through scholarship. How did you get from Daytona Beach to Fort Meade?
Okay, good question. So, at first, Fort Meade was not my first job outside of college, but there's still a backstory on how I got here. So I'll tell you how I got to my first job first, which was in Vero Beach. I got the chance of teaching at um, Beachland Elementary in Vero Beach. So I was first an elementary school teacher. How I got that job was it was kind of weird. So I was a part of the symphonic band, and the symphonic band has to go on tour in the springtime. And this was literally the year that I was graduating. And during our tour, a job festival, a job fair, sorry, was scheduled at the same time that we were leaving. And I was like, I cannot let this go by. But I know I still have to fulfill my obligation to band, obviously, because without band, I wouldn't even be there. So what I did was I stayed up all night. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to make sure my resume is real good, make sure everything is good with it, and I'm going to send it with a friend. And I say, hey, every place that you go, leave my resume there, right? And he was such a good friend. His name was Kevin Lopez. Never forget him. He was a trombone player, real good on his horn. I think he's also a band director as well. So he did what I asked, and on the bus ride over to I think we were going to Columbus, Georgia, and during the bus ride, I got a call, and it was a number that I didn't recognize, and I was like, really? Yeah. It was actually that quick, and they called me and they were like, hey, we saw your resume and we love all the things you were doing, and we also saw that you were in one of the classes of one of our teachers, and his name was, I think it was Tyrone Parks. And he said, he's here right now, and he recognized your name, and he saw you, and he knows that you do a real good job in your classes. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know Tyrone. And from there, the rest was history. They were like, hey, we want you on. So after I came back from my tour, I immediately went for an interview there. And they loved me, I loved them, and it was great. Now, the way came from Vero Beach to Fort Meade is because, well, I love elementary school. Great. I have a lot of energy, they have a lot of energy, but I always wanted to teach band. And that's where my heart lied. So one day my friend, Anithio Miller, he was the band director at Kathleen Senior High School. And he said that he needed a guest conductor for his concert. And obviously he knew me from Bethune-Cookman as well. So I said, sure, of course, I'll be a guest conductor, because I loved band, obviously, and he knew how much I was still in my craft. So he called me over. I spent some time with his band before the actual concert, and man, I'm not gonna lie, I was jealous. I was like, I really do want to teach band. And he was like, hey, I think they have an opening somewhere in Polk County. You wanna see what you can do here? And I was like, I like Vero Beach though, but I really do love band. I'll see what it is. And from there, that's when I got a call from.
I want to shout out to Kathleen because I graduated from Kathleen High School too. So you are being connected to the right people at the right places. So so this passion for band, and which leads you to Fort Meade, and I have just heard such wonderful things about how you have grown the band. So tell us about where you started from, how many members you have now, and just generally about those great, because I just love the people of Fort Meade. They are just so friendly and everything. So, with your personality, I think that you've just been a perfect fit. Now, I can't judge from what you do that happens at your school, but from what I've heard in the community, you're just great. So tell us.
Okay. All right. So when I came in 2019, the fall of 2019, that is. Obviously, I had this big grand scheme plan. I did not know what I was getting into at first. They told me that we were going through some rebuilding. So I was getting ready for that. But I'll say this. I was calling all the parents that were on my list before band camp started. And I was like, hey, we got a new band director. I would love to see your kid out to band camp so we can get a nice head start of the season. And I was calling. Honestly, some of the calls, they just sent me straight to voicemail. Some of the calls, they heard who I was and they just hung up the phone. But I was like, you know what? I'm determined to get through all of these students on this list. And I think it was about 25 students that I had on the list to call. But I was expecting at least for there to be at least 20 students that show up. When I got there for the first day at band camp, there were 5 kids. There were 5 kids. And I kid you not, my heart sunk. But after I have this thing that I always say, I'm going to teach who's there. Right? So whoever is in my classroom for that day, regardless if it's a short day or a long day or whatever the case may be, I'm going to teach who's in my room. And I said, you know what? Let me teach these kids, because basically they knew what it probably was going to be when they got there to band camp. They knew that they probably wouldn't have seen a whole lot of their friends there. But regardless, they stayed and they soaked up everything that I taught them that day. Everything. And I said to myself, well, actually I said to them before they left, right at the end, I was like, I know for a fact that you guys will flourish no matter where you go, because they didn't care about what anybody else had to say about them or the program or what happened beforehand. They were there because they wanted to be there. They weren't trying to follow anybody else. They had their own mindset. They had their own goals. They were driven. And I said to myself, I could do something with this. If I didn't have that drive with those 5 kids, then you probably wouldn't have heard about me. But those 5 kids were there, and they were there every day afterwards. And the next day, it grew to 9. The day after that, it stayed around 9. However, when the classes started, I told them that, hey, the best recruiter is you. You have to actually go out and let your friends know, hey, we have a new band director. He's really good with kids. You got to spice it up. Let them know, right? And they did their job. They did their job, because at the start of the season, we had about at our first game we had about 25 kids. So that's a big growth for 25. We might have looked small, but it was still 25 kids out there, right? Well, hold on, wait. We didn't get to 25 yet. Here's how I know. We had to make a diamond formation, and at our first game, so it was 8 across, and we had 2 ranks. So it was 8, and then 8, so that's 16, and then we had 1 color guard. So we made a diamond with the 1 color guard right in the middle. So that had to be around 17 students at that time. So we really grew a lot. We really grew a lot, and those kids had grit. And because of what those kids did, because those 5 kids did not give up, the program continued to grow. But something happened at the end of that year that nobody foreseen it. Well, I could have foreseen that would have happened, but COVID struck. So just in the middle of our rise to glory, COVID struck. So a lot of the kids, they didn't get that second half of band. They didn't get that second half of, okay, now we're getting ready to gear up for a concert season and make sure our concert season is perfect. It actually got cut short. So that was the first time I was like, could I really do this? Because I was going good so far, but now I don't know if my numbers are going to stay the same, if they're going to drop, if they're going to go up. I had no idea. And the Zoom classes, to be honest, that was at first it was not good at all. It was I've seen most about maybe about 10 students in my class to show up, and that was like either on a good day, but I would not see those 10 students show up every time. And it was not because most of it was not because they didn't want to, but it's just because they probably didn't have the means to. They didn't have all of the means to, whether it be Wi-Fi or a device that they can get on and log on. So reaching out to those kids that didn't have was really hard, really difficult. So coming into the band camp for the next year, it was a crunch. It was a crunch, but we did get a good showing, a better showing than we had the last year. And then I don't know what happened, but a lot of our kids just was like, "Hey, I don't care. I want to be in band. Put me in that course." And I think we grew to about 30 kids that year. Was the amount of people that we had in the marching band course. And from there, we couldn't march on the field, but we did play on the field in 2020 year. But when 2021 rolled around, the word really got out. And this year, at our band camp, we had 25 kids show up, but there were, when the classes actually started, there were 50 kids enrolled in marching band. 50. I mean, I almost couldn't believe it myself. I was like, hold on, wait. When I was trying to do the numbers, I was like, okay, I gotta get this ready, that ready. Hold up, wait. It's looking like a lot of a lot of kids on this list. So that's how we grew. The kids really took initiative with that. It just started. All Fort Meade needed was somebody that really believed in the kids, regardless of who showed up. Those kids just needed somebody to believe in them. And once they had that, that's all I provided. Well, obviously with education, of course, making sure they sound right.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, they grew themselves. They took the initiative to say, hey, we have band, you want to join? They talked to their classmates, hey, we have band, you want to join? Come back to band. I know you were good on your instrument. Let's see if we could make the year great. So that's what you see now.
Well, I am just loving hearing about your accomplishments and the accolades that your students who are driven to do what they think and encourage the band program. Now, I recently heard, and I did not read it, but tell us about your recent accolades.
Oh. All right. So recently, we just took part in District 12's Marching MPA. And if you don't know what Marching MPA is, it's basically a time where all bands get together and they perform their best shows for the entire Polk County, right? So I think every band in Polk County was there, except for one school, I believe it was Lakeland. But every other band was there, so it was a packed area. And this year was very special to us. I have to kind of tell you a backstory before I get to how big of an impact this year was for us at Marching MPA. So the first year we came, the first year we had those 5 students, right? Which is 2019. We had Marching MPA, and the kids never went. Well, they went to Marching MPA before, but it had been years since they've been there. So basically, I wanted them to have something to really go off of for the next year. It's mainly because when kids see something, they're more inclined to believe it. So the newer kids that were there, I wanted them to understand that there's something bigger than just what you get here at Fort Meade. You can see what the world is doing outside, and then you can bring that back to Fort Meade and make your program better. So the first year we went to Marching MPA, we went for comments only. That means that the judges would say what they think about your program, and they would give you some pointers of how to make it better. And then what you would do is you would take it back and go over it with the kids, and make your program even that much better. But they would not give you an official rating. It would just be for your comments, just to see how your band is doing. And when they went there, I know those kids were very afraid. A lot of them never even went to MPA at all. So when they saw all those big bands coming across the stage, they were like, wow, so this is what we could be. Or this is what Mr. Hanna is talking about in practices. This is why we have to work so hard, So when they saw that in person, they got that feeling of, okay, now I really have to get better, because I want to be better at this program. And we did a good job at 2019, but obviously there were some things we still had to improve upon, being a newer band. So 2020 rolled around, and they had to cancel marching MPA. So we didn't have a chance to go during 2020 year. So the kids were really amped up to be able to go to the 2021 marching MPA. And so the way they have the band stacked up, you have to go by size, right? So the first year obviously we went first. But this year when we went, we were one of the bigger bands there. We went 7th.
Wow.
So we were right in the middle of the program. It felt so good to see our names there, honestly, and the kids were so happy and proud of just that. But honestly, those kids put on an awesome performance. I'm talking about seeing them from not knowing how to play a note the year before to being able to play on such a big stage now a year later. They've done an awesome job. So they didn't just go for comments this year. They actually went for an official rating, and we got a rating of excellence straight across the board. So kudos to
Yes. Yes. Well, that sounds wonderful. I knew that accolades had been given, but I didn't quite understand the whole concept, because I'm not have never been a band parent. But I think it's important for kids to see beyond the presence of where they are.
Exactly.
And so that is just wonderful, great. So kudos to Fort Meade, and kudos to you for encouraging them and letting them have that experience. And I'm going to flip sides and say, when we were talking at the escape room, you said that someone said that if you're smart. You remember that?
Oh, yes.
It's just kind of, because I think that kind of is an encourager, and that's the same thing that you're instilling in them. So.
Yes. Okay. So, very good. You have a good memory, by the way. So when we were talking, it was actually my mother. She said, and now I'm going to say it in my Bahamian accent. She said, EJ, they'll pay you for being smart. And when she said that to me, I was like, I believe you, but mommy, I'm not that smart. Like this is just me being a regular six-year-old. I think I was in the second grade at the time, and I didn't quite understand what she said at the moment. But as I went on with life, I understood exactly what she meant. So I knew that I wasn't like a star student at the time. But what I took from that was not that they'll pay me for being smart. They'll pay me for trying my best. I always had this in my mind, once you put your best foot forward, you will always be able to get better. And then it might seem like you're one of the smarter ones, but you just tried hard. That's all it is. That's all it is. It was one anime that my kids love to watch. I'm talking about my band kids. It was Naruto Shippuden. And it's this character who starts off literally the worst student in his class. And he's paired up with the most talented student in his class. But the talented student realized that, hey, this kid could potentially beat me because he's literally going home and trying his best literally every day. So the student who just tried hard was pushing the student who was claimed to be the smartest. And then at the end of the whole show, it was shown that the student who literally tried their best became the smartest person. Well, not the smartest person, I'll say, but became the most talented person in that show. The most person who had the best accolades, who brought down the evil villains, the most evil villains, even the most talented person, that is. So I just took a page out of that book. I was like, you know what? I'm not that smart, mom, but I would definitely try my hardest in my academics. So what happened was I started to, just take all of my work seriously. And every time I came home, I would just complete my work immediately. And then from there, like my music teachers, they would recruit me and say, hey, I need you to go to this school when you graduate. I need you to go to that school when you graduate. Make sure that you join this program when you graduate. And I would just say, okay, no problem. Being a kid, okay, I'll do it. Because those teachers, they never stared me wrong at all. So everything they said, I trusted them wholeheartedly. You know what I mean? If it really wasn't for those teachers, I wouldn't be where I am now. So my first teacher that inspired me to that extent to really try my best, especially in music, was Miss Simpson. I went to a school called E.P. Roberts Primary School. In the Bahamas, they call it primary school and not elementary, because you go all the way up to 6th grade instead of 5th grade. So my teacher, she told me, hey, you're doing real good, you're real talented with your voice, because I first started off as a singer. Obviously, in elementary school, the music that you're going to come in contact with is mostly choral music. You sing a lot. So she said, look, I want you to join band when you go to C.H. Reeve Junior High School. And I was like, okay. She said, I think you would definitely get an out of that. So I went there, and I joined. I didn't join band right away. I was in art, but they gave you 2 electives at the time. So, but after a while, you had to choose which one you wanted. So they gave you time to go through each elective class, and then you choose where you actually wanted to be. So when it came time to join band, I was the last person in the line. Not because I wanted to be. I was just the last person there. And when I was in the line, I saw everybody getting their pick of the instruments, right? And I was like, oh, I wanted to play that. Oh, I wanted to play that. Oh, they got trumpet. Oh man. And then when it came to me, I got the last instrument in the room. And it was a big old tenor saxophone. Now, I was a small kid for my age. I was like the littlest person there. My hands were small, and the tenor saxophone is like super big. So when I took that home, regardless of what it was, I said, you know what? I'm going to try my best at that instrument. I'm going to be the best I can be on this instrument. So I took that instrument home every day, and I practiced every day. There were a lot of people around like, hey, what you doing carrying that big case home? Or like, why you walking down the road with this big case? What is that in there? You know what I mean? Is that a big trumpet? No, I hate it when people say it's the big trumpet. But I wouldn't pay them any mind, because I knew what my goal was. I know I wanted to make my mom proud. I wanted to make my family proud, and I also wanted it for myself as well, because I loved music ever since I was a little kid. So from there, tried my best. I was the worst student there. Didn't have that much talent, but I practiced. It came time I was practicing almost like 5 hours every day. You know what I mean? And you had to bring your horn back to school, because you had to obviously play while you're at school. So fast forwarding from that experience, my teacher there, Miss Justilian, she said, I want you to audition for the performing arts school in the Bahamas. Right? She said, I want you to audition for the magnet school for performing arts. It was called the government high school. I don't know why they call it the, but they just said the government high school. I know it's supposed to be the. I know we're in the library, but they would call it that because mostly all of our prime ministers came from that school. So it was a very prestigious place, especially for the performing arts. So I auditioned and I got in. But when I got into government high school, I noticed that I was the worst saxophone player there. Here's why. I didn't know how to read music. The only reason I was good is because I just went home every day. I would listen to the music on my Windows 95 XP computer, and I was listening to Summertime, right? And if you remember Windows 95, it took a long time to load any type of music you were playing. So what I would do is I would click it and make the instrumental load up, and then I would practice real quick as it was buffering, and then I would press play, and then I would play along with it. So it was kind of natural. I got that practice time in before I would hear what it was playing. So I was the worst saxophone player there, and it was because I didn't know how to read music. But the band director there said he saw something in me, and his name was Mr. Justilian, Yonel Justilian to be exact. I didn't know this before then, but it was the wife of my middle school band director. So both of them were band directors at the time. So when I was under his teaching, he just was like, "Hey, if you want it, you'll practice for it. If you want it, you will actually get it. You will actually put the work in yourself." So it reeled back right to what my mom said. EJ, they'll pay you for being smart, which I translated into, EJ, they'll pay you for actually trying. You have to put your best foot forward every time. And here it is, my band director is telling me the exact same thing. If you want to be the best, you have to try. You have to put your best foot forward. And from there, my second year in high school, senior high school that is, I became saxophone section leader. So I guess I was the best saxophone player a year later. Then a year after that, I became band captain. So all of those things, now my mom said, started to come to fruition. Like, I'm seeing it pay off. I'm seeing myself excel because of the hard work that I put in. So that told me that anything that I do, or anything that I put my best effort in, it will definitely reap the benefits. It will definitely reap benefits. So from there, obviously, the Bethune-Cookman story, Mr. Wells came over to audition us. So I auditioned, got in, and continued to grow from there as well. And I love to put, one thing I notice about me too is I love to put myself in challenging positions. I don't know why, but I love to put myself in challenging positions. Every time I see a challenge, I know I want to, go for it. So, yeah, it's because of my mom, what she said to me all those years ago.
And so that's what I remember about our conversation then, was that your mother had told you to be smart. And so you translated it to do your best. And that's what your kids at Fort Meade High School are doing. They're doing their best. And so I think you just have such a wonderful story. And I want parents to know that that's one way to encourage their kids, is to tell them, something may happen as a result of you doing your best. And so always put your best foot forward. So I'd just like to thank you for coming and sharing with us the great things that are happening with band. And hopefully it will inspire others to be a part of your program. And I was glad to know that you were in the middle of all of the schools that are in Polk County. Well, there's a lot of schools in Polk County. Yeah. So, but you're growing. And so thank you for being with us. Is there anything else you wish to share with us?
Oh, yes. Especially on the part with parents being wanting their kids to be in band. There's a definite thing where you can really capitalize on them being a part of band. One of our students, his name is Jaden Smallwood, one of my previous students. He was one of the 5, by the way. He was one of the 5. He expressed to me how much he wanted to go to Bethune-Cookman University, as he spent his time here at Fort Meade Middle Senior High School. And I just told him exactly the same thing my band director told me. Hey, you gotta be prepared. You gotta definitely put your best foot forward, and as long as you do that, you will definitely make it in. So what he did was, I got it. It was he graduated during 2020, so that was the COVID time, the more rougher time that we had, especially to do auditions. But he showed grit. He didn't give up. I said, he said, I want to put an audition tape together, and I said, hey, okay, no problem, fine, we'll do it, especially if you want to. So we put his audition tape together. We made sure that his grade stayed on top, and by the end of that year, he was actually awarded, I think it was an $8,000 scholarship to perform in Bethune-Cookman University's marching band. So band does pay too. He is not, and furthermore, he is not a music major. He's a business major. So you don't have to be a music major to actually get a scholarship for band. You do not have to be a music major to get a scholarship for band. You can literally be, you can be a science major, biotechnology. You can be what, computer tech major. It doesn't matter. Whatever. All they ask for is for you to just perform in band as a return on their investment. So he's living up his life. He's about to play for at his first classic on Saturday. So I'm rooting for him. I'm proud of him, and he's doing such wonderful things there. And I hope that my other students definitely will get that chance to see their dream come around full circle. Especially how mine did, seeing one of my students go to my alma mater, Hill Wildcats, once again.
So thank you for joining us, and thank you for those wonderful stories and all of those great words of encouragement for others. And so thank you for joining us on Hometown Highlights.